What's going on, everybody? It's Afro think tank. So, the Führer himself, the Czar himself, Donald J. Trump, the German, all right, neo-Nazi, all right, Schnitzelwinkel Fourth Reich freaking leader here. You know, June 14th is coming up, and June 14th, it's a coincidence, guys. It's a coincidence, guys, that June 14th is Donald Trump's birthday, which we all were hoping he would never make it to. But apparently he keeps making it to these birthdays, and it disappoints us every single time. But, nonetheless, apparently he's going to make it. We can all hope that he doesn't, but he didn't make it to his birthday. And so you know what he was going to do for his birthday? Just so happens that he invited or forced the UFC, the organization that's been pandering to Donald Trump, because UFC is where all the mid-white people go because they can't compete in any other fighting sports, so they figure they keep making up sports where white people can be the fighting heroes and champions of the world, even though it doesn't work out because it still be the black person that go over to UFC and whip his ass and be the champion. That place that holds all the MAGAs who wants to see combat sports, because they don't see white people in sports, because when they compete on the even playing field, apparently history has said who end up being the ones, So UFC is the place where they can enslave white people to beat each other up and get paid, and UFC make a ton of money, and the fighters themselves, the white slaves that fight in the arenas and in the gallows, the white fighters who fights in the stadiums and shit, for pennies, right? Like slaves, right? He wants them to fight outside, okay? June 14th, okay? Hot as in Washington, D.C. Do you know how hot it's going to be outside June 14th? Okay? Do you know how hot it's? He wants these guys to fight under the lights. It's already going to be hot. They're going to have more lights, right? He wants his gladiators to battle for his birthday, right? He battle for his birthday and fight in a death-defying arena outside in 100% humidity, freaking 100-something, 10,000 degrees outside, and all kind of mosquitoes and bugs and shit. Yeah, that's what he want his fighters to do. His underpaid slave warriors that he got fighting. That's what's gonna happen for Donald Trump's birthday. And because all the fighters who are worth their salt say, yeah, I'm not fighting at that event. Plus, why would any fighter want to be associated with Donald Trump? Why? Why would any fighter want to be associated with Donald Trump and any of his shit? Nobody would. Nobody wants to be associated with that shit, right? With a clear warmonger, a clear sexual abuser, a clear criminal. Why would anybody want to fight for his birthday in those kind of conditions? By the way, all this is being paid for by us, the taxpayers. Us taxpayers, we're paying for that. Yes, we're supposed to pay for Donald Trump's glorious birthday. Well, he have his poor white gladiators fighting for damn near free in death-defying weather outside. How insane is that? And so it's going to hell in a handbag because nobody wants to be a part of this. He can't even sell tickets, all right? He's going to force the U.S. military to go to the event just so he can fill up the stadium, right? The little station that they're building. And if that's not ridiculous enough, he's making sure that any soldier or Marine or airman or sailor who goes to this event has to be within height, weight required. He wants to make sure there's no thick ones, maybe some of the troops that, maybe they got hurt because they was over there in combat, got hurt, couldn't exercise, and, maybe they're a little bit out of shape, because that's what happens when you sacrifice your body for your government, when you go to war and put yourself on the line, for a cause. But apparently you're not good enough if you're just a little bit overweight, right, to go to see the UFC fight, even though the president is a 300-pound fat nasty slob, right? Apparently only the pristine looking troops get to go. How insult on top of insult on top of insult. Disgusting. This is the government that we have, y'all. It's disgusting that they're forcing the troops. Oh yeah, and the troops got to pay for their own ticket and hotels to be forced. Mandatory fun day. All my veterans know what that means. Meaning we highly encourage you to go or else. That's what that means. That means, yeah, we highly encourage you to take your little bit of money that you get paid, trooper, and go to a UFC event, whether you believe in it or not, whether you like the president or not, and spend your money sitting in stands and look happy and excited, and make sure you clap when when Trump comes out. Make sure you stand at attention and look like you proud when the president comes and sit on his grand seat to watch the gladiators battle in the arenas. Yeah? Just so Donald Trump can have his birthday party and people be there. Because if you don't force the troops to go, no one would fucking show up. Oh man, is this what it looks like when white people are in complete and total control? Is this the government that these conservative white people, is this what they want? Is this what happens when white men are in charge everywhere? Is this the government? Is this the society? Is this it? Is this it? This is the best y'all can do, right? Ridiculous. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think about this in the comments section. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.
For the longest time, this is what the White House lawn has looked like. And this is what's happening for a UFC event. Again, this is what everyone has known and loved and adored. And now, what in the fuck? Did you ever see that movie called Idiocracy? It was a documentary about the future.
Lara Trump bringing up that this ridiculous, corrupt UFC fight that is destroying the White House lawn and handing millions of dollars to Donald Trump's friend Dana White, the president and owner of UFC, is on his 80th birthday. Lara Trump brings that up. Trump goes, well, I hate to hear that I'm turning 80. Take a look at this.
Away, you can see outside the construction is happening from this amazing, historic UFC event. It's obviously right outside on the White House lawn. It coincides with your 80th birthday, which is incredible.
I hate to hear that name. And that's on June 14th, and it's the hardest ticket. I have never been asked for people. Everybody wants. I'm going to make more enemies. And it's about 4,000 seats, and then they're going to have close to 100,000 people in the back where they're putting up 8 massive screens. And it's all free. It's all free. It's really a contribution from UFC to 250, meaning the 250 years our country, our great country.
We talk about in other countries, if we heard X, we would assume Y. And like I said, if we found out that the president or prime minister or dictator's daughter-in-law was interviewing them, we would go, wow, that's brazen corruption. That's a co-opting of the media. Similarly, if we found out that, take your pick, okay, my birth country, if we found out that Argentinian President Milei was having a polo match on the grounds of the Pink House, the equivalent of the White House, we would go, what kind of a corrupt handout is this? Which friend of his has an interest in polo? And yet here in the United States, Trump has convinced a whole bunch of these MAGA Republicans that this is cool, that this is fine, that this is just a cultural touch point.
We're going to be on the fucking south lawn of the White House. This is the octagon, right? We're building this arch, almost like the St. Louis arch. So when we shoot this fight, this whole backdrop will be the White House. And then when the cameras move over and the fight's this way, it's all the Washington Monument. Then there's a park that's sort of connected to the White House. And we'll have 85,000 people. The fighters are gonna walk out of the Oval Office. A once in a lifetime opportunity that will never happen again.
And they should probably have like a small section for anybody that had them on their podcast prior.
Probably.
You know what I'm saying?
Construction for the UFC fight on the White House South Lawn has begun. You'll notice behind me what UFC is calling the Claw, a massive lighting grid which will go over the octagon where the fight will take place. Now, crews started assembling and reconstructing the structure yesterday on the South Lawn, but it actually comes from Belgium. CEO of UFC Dana White told the Jim Rome Show. A White House official told me earlier this month that it was fabricated in Pennsylvania and later shipped to DC, where it is now being reconstructed. The fight is happening on President Trump's 80th birthday, June 14th. Just weeks away now, a White House official told me that a third of the tickets are already reserved for military members and their family, a third for White House staff and their family, a third for VIPs, as well as 200 tickets for UFC to give out. And we'll see which VIPs will show up at this fight. UFC offered renderings to CNN and posted them publicly over the weekend, showing the ellipse where people will be able to view the fight on massive screens and sit in stands, as well as renderings of the South Lawn, where you can see the U.S. Marine Band in front of the octagon and all the guests under the claw. The White House has faced some criticism for hosting this UFC fight on the South Lawn, including from Governor Gavin Newsom's press office, as well as UFC commentator and podcaster Joe Rogan, who said on his podcast that the fight was kind of a gimmick and raised security concerns.
And it's just going to be a security nightmare.
That's true.
You're on the White House lawn.
At the same time, Rogan said that while he's not thrilled, he is still going to be at the fight.
You're going to be there?
Yeah, I'll be there, but I'm not thrilled about it.
See this
Doesn't
today?
seem like a wise idea.
Trump, responding to Rogan's criticism, said in an interview with Time, life is a gimmick if you think about it, right? But it's a good gimmick. I think it's great for America, frankly.
Now, Joe Rogan is out saying that he's actually upset by what Trump is doing with the UFC event, which to me just seems like a money laundering scheme. And here's what he had to say.
The White House thing is odd. I don't like it. I don't like the idea of fighting outside at all.
Well, there's problems with it.
And then
done it too many
it's
times.
June, and it's DC, and we looked it up the last time, like last year, same day, it was 100 degrees.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
yeah.
hot as fuck.
Then you add the lights.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the lights.
You add the lights.
You
That
add
attracts bugs.
They were talking about maybe using fans. Is that enough?
No, it's not
You
enough.
got bug strips everywhere? What are you going to do? Like, how are you going to stop the bugs? I just don't think that you should compete in a world championship fight in a non-controlled environment.
Yeah.
I think it should be inside an air-conditioned arena. It should be a controlled environment, just like you don't ask someone to do any of that. You wouldn't ask them to play a world championship basketball game outside in the sun.
No.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Right? You play in a fucking air-conditioned arena, and that's how it should be.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, but I understand the whole thing, and
I get it
it's
too,
special.
but listen,
but it's going to be a pain in the butt.
A fucking roof.
Yeah.
Build a roof. Like, you've got all the money in the world, right? You're doing this. You want to do this for
I don't
fucking
know. It's not
America?
my money.
It's 4,000 seats. You build a 4,000 seat arena. Yeah. How big is that? Get a fucking barn dominium.
Well, or they could have just used, I don't know, one of the arenas they have in DC and not build something in front of the White House. But I actually don't think this is about the fight. This is about someone somewhere making money off of this. Now, Dana White actually came out against this too, and here's what he had to say.
And then now we're on the south lawn of the White House, and with 4,000 people, mostly military, and then across the street at the Ellipse, there'll be 85,000 people. Over 300,000 people have applied for tickets.
You're setting up a kind of outdoor arena there at the White House, is that right?
It's, which there's two things I hate. I hate stadiums, and I hate, even worse than a stadium, is fighting outside. There's just so many different variables you have to deal with, the weather and, the worst obviously being rain and lightning.
Yeah.
And then bugs and, temperatures and lots of different things that I don't like.
So it's so funny that Donald Trump is putting so much time, energy, and money into this UFC fight at the White House, which is truly absurd. And the people who it's supposed to be for are actually against it.
Senior Pentagon leaders are putting together lists of U.S. service members who could have the chance to attend President Donald Trump's White House UFC event. But in order to qualify, those troops must meet the military's body composition standards. Those regulations say that troops must have a waist-to-height ratio of 0.55. What does that mean? The average male in the United States is about 5'9". That means he would have to have a 37-inch waist in order to qualify for free admission to this UFC event. The average woman, on the other hand, in the United States is about 5'4", meaning her waist would need to be about 35 inches in order to get the free tickets. Now, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has really put an emphasis on the way U.S. service members look. In addition to the way that they fight, he told a crowd of senior generals back in October that there will be, quote, no fat troops or fat generals walking the halls of the Pentagon. Now, U.S. service members have taken away a similar message from a memo outlining the requirements to qualify for free admission to the UFC event. One defense official putting it, quote, it basically means no fat soldiers.
This is how ridiculous the UFC fight in the White House is and will be. Now it's reported that they're asking soldiers to go to the UFC to be behind the president, so he can look cool. But besides soldiers paying their own trip, which I'm pretty sure there's going to be some deep throaters that are going to make it, they are demanding that the people that go meet certain height and weight and other conditions to be there. Why? Because they are crafting an army that is not the army that actually fights. It's not the 30% minority army that is there. And I'll tell you why. Because to them, what they want to have behind the president are 6 feet tall people, fit, certain weight, that they all look like that's the whole army that they have. But the other high percentage of Latinos that are there, that are not 6 feet tall, that do not look white, they are not admitted to go there because they got to meet those requirements. Why? Because they don't want to fucking see you. Because they don't want to let the world know that the United States Army is a combination of a diverse group of people. Everything from a Latino to a Black to a Mexican to whatever you want are in the Army. And the combination of that strength is what makes the Army what it is. But no, according to Pete Hegseth, diversity is our strength is a stupid statement because he dumb motherfucker spent 6 months in a combat zone and now suddenly he is fucking Jason Bourne. But the fact of the matter is that I cannot understand how anybody at this point, and this comes from a veteran, would join the military when they don't even want you to be on TV with uniform to look like you're part of that army. That's how fucking ashamed they feel about you. But when the bullets start flying, you can be damn fucking sure you're going to be in the front line. I'm Alex, this is my rant, and I'm out.
Now, according to one defense official, it says this sends a very clear message to any attendees who want to come to this event, who are interested in attending this event. Quote, no fatties. Another defense official said senior Pentagon leaders are signaling their preference for military members who will look good on camera. And that person said, again, basically no fat soldiers would be admitted to this event. Aaron.
Okay, now, hear me out. Donald Trump is not technically in the military, but he is commander-in-chief. So, does that mean he's not going to be allowed to go to this UFC event because he does not meet the standards that they are currently requiring their active duty service members? Let me know your thoughts over in the comments, because, I thought, when it comes down to active duty service members or even those who are in the reserves and everything, I thought it was just a privilege to be, proud to be an American, to serve your country and everything. I didn't know that they were actually going out there and just, trying to be America's next top model. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
I want to see you fight the White House.
That'd be dope, dude.
I would love for you to fight the White House.
Some guy fought and he said that he doesn't really want to fight in front of billionaires, and I do understand that. And I was like, that makes sense, bro. So I think I'd want to do the White House. Yeah, if there was some kind of like inclusion for fans, it'd be more. But like, just to go hang out the Epstein list, I'm good, dog. I'm good, dude.
The only male American UFC champion is banned from attending the UFC White House event. And the reason is absolutely heinous. Sean Strickland is not allowed to attend the UFC White House event, despite him being the only male American UFC champ. The reason he's not allowed to attend the event, because he said the President of the United States, Donald Trump, is owned by the Prime Minister of that place, and that he made fun of them and also mentioned that. And those are the reasons why the only male American UFC champion is not allowed at the UFC White House event. A couple of jokes and a couple of political opinions kept the man away from being able to represent the United States just with presence. Imagine having the only male champion from your country in an event that represents your country not be allowed to come to the event because you don't like a couple things that he said. I've never seen anything more ludicrous in my life. Sean Strickland should be 100% disgusted. Makes you think of how many fights we missed out on this UFC White House card because of these horrific regulations. This is probably the reason the card originally had 6 fights and now only has 7, as opposed to the average like 11 to 13 fights. Such a load of bullshit.
Sean Strickland is banned from attending the UFC White House event. Banned. The only male American champion in the UFC right now is banned and cannot attend the White House, and wait till you hear why. Sean Strickland is unable to attend the UFC White House card because of comments he made politically and because of the comments he made about, as Jet Chaos will say, the oy veys. And I mean, come on, what are we doing here? The UFC, everybody is always trying to shut out Sean Strickland. It's never going to work. Mind you, this is out of nowhere. Sean Strickland said he didn't want to go and he didn't want to fight on this card anyway. But I mean, this just takes us back to UFC Houston when they cut off Sean Strickland's microphone. This guy is not allowed to say what he wants to say. freedom of speech only applies when your name is not Sean Strickland. And considering that Dana White has gone public, making it clear that this is not a political event, that this event will not be tied to politics, Sean Strickland is banned from the UFC White House card, the only male American champion in the UFC. I get that there's American fighters on the card, but right now, Sean Strickland is the biggest influence in American mixed martial arts. He's the champion. This is an American event on the White House in America. What are we doing?
A UFC event tied to the White House and promoted by Donald Trump in June is quickly becoming a source of controversy before it even begins. Fighters inside the sport are already questioning the direction of the event. Donald Trump had previously promised a crowd of 100,000 fans in a specially built stadium designed for a massive once-in-a-lifetime event. That vision now appears to have shifted into a much smaller temporary structure with limited seating and a noticeably scaled-down setup compared to the original pitch toe. Make up for the reduced scale, organizers are now considering bringing in around 4,000 service members as spectators. Entry would be limited to those who meet strict physical fitness and body composition standards, and anyone who does not meet the requirements would not be included. Attendees would also be expected to cover their own travel costs, further narrowing participation and adding to criticism surrounding the planning. Earlier statements from Donald Trump described a landmark UFC celebration with over 100,000 attendees and a record-setting atmosphere. That image now stands in sharp contrast to what is currently being built.
Donald Trump's birthday and his UFC fight have been ruined as the next No Kings protest is going to fill the streets of D.C. that day. Now, if you missed it, Donald Trump's birthday will fall on June 14th, and he's already scheduled a UFC fight on the White House lawn to help him celebrate. But those plans are going to be ruined as the next No Kings protest is going to be held on that same day. And the streets of D.C. are going to be flooded with protesters expressing their anger, their frustration, and their tiredness of this administration. Not going to be people to be there to celebrate and watch the UFC fight. And you can bet Donald Trump 100% sees these things happening. Because the second there is a No Kings protest, he immediately puts out talking points that every right-winger and everybody in his administration spits out, because they absolutely frustrate Donald Trump. And it's going to be very hard for him to enjoy his filet-o-fish while he's watching UFC on the lawn, knowing there's people on the outside cursing his name.
And of course, there's potential financial benefit for Donald Trump in this story and in this instance as well to tell you about. HuffPost reported that Trump purchased somewhere between $15,000 and $50,000 worth of stock in TKO Holdings. That's the parent company that owns the UFC. Trump purchased the stock as he was actively promoting the UFC event at the White House.
The White House is hosting a UFC cage match to celebrate Trump's 80th birthday because, of course, last year he had a squeaky tank military parade for his 79th. So this year he had to go all out and build a Thunderdome to prove his masculinity. You see, MAGA Republicans love to cosplay as tough guys, fighting against the big bad drag queens and the fewer than 10 college students who identify as trans out of 500,000 NCAA college athletes. But when it comes to fighting a real bully, they're nowhere to be found. Donald Trump played squash and tennis for his college team at Fordham, but when it came time for the draft, he came down with a convenient case of bone spurs. Dodged the draft 5 times in Vietnam, but he'll send your kids to war in Iraq. For MAGA Republicans, masculinity is just a performance of toughness. That's why former Fox News host Pete Hegseth changed the signs of the Pentagon from the Department of Defense to the Department of War. Wait till he finds out he's still a secretary. And that's why Republicans will stand up to anybody or any country that they think is weaker than them, but not to the bullies who are just as strong or stronger. And the one bully that they fear the most is a retired game show host with an orange spray tan and a busy trigger finger on a gold can of spray paint. When Trump embarrassed Lindsey Graham by giving out his personal cell phone number to the world, Graham bent over like a high school cheerleader doing backflips to submit himself. When Trump insulted Marco Rubio, little Marco kissed his ass and went to work for him. And when Trump called Ted Cruz's wife ugly, Cancun Ted went to court to defend his abuser. What kind of man would defend a man who attacks his wife? Real manhood is not about flexing or fighting, unless you have to. It's definitely not picking on those who are vulnerable. Manhood is about using your strength for good. It's about helping, not hurting people who are weaker. It's about standing up for what's right. Too bad those beta males in Mar-a-Lago don't know that.
So construction crews have taken over the South Lawn for the UFC event, celebrating Trump's 80th birthday, June 14th. Imagine if Obama did that, they'd have a huge issue. They'd probably burn it down. But they're building a temporary arena that's going to cost $70 million. That's going to be paid by, that $70 million is going to be paid by TKO Holdings, UFC's parent company, and they said they're not expecting to turn a profit. So they're just basically burning $70 million. But of course, this doesn't include the cost for security and Secret Service, for the 5,000 invited guests and 100,000 people that are going to be viewing in a nearby arena. They estimate that replacing the grass alone after the event is going to cost around $700,000, and the total estimates for the security and everything they're going to need to have the proper security in place is around $20 million, a rough estimate. But for the president, what's an expense? He gets everything, we get nothing. Salute the king. Peace. They got money for UFC, but can't feed the poor. Imagine that. Peace.
Can you imagine the reaction from conservatives if Biden would have held, a drag show at the White House, a drag show on the White House lawn? I don't mind the UFC as a sport. I think it's violent. I don't think kids should be watching it. And I think it does fall on one side of the political spectrum just because of what Dana White stands for and what he talks about. I don't care for him whatsoever. But I'm okay if two consenting adults want to get in a ring and fight for money, right? Like, fine, do that. But what I don't care for is the fact that we feel like we need to politicize it, which, again, I will admit, it's already sort of politicized and it's already extremely right-winged. But to hold an event, a UFC event, on the White House lawn in front of the White House is laughable. And it's almost not laughable because it's so predictable. Part of comedy is misdirection. This is so par for the course for what this administration has done. And there's a golf pun in there because what is Trump doing right now? Probably that, okay? I don't necessarily have the words. When I used to teach English, sorry, my father called. When I used to teach English, we could have talked about the symbolism here. And for an administration that has already pardoned the rioters on January 6th and is potentially giving them money, for all that we've seen with ICE, for all that we've seen with starting a war in Iran, like, why are we shocked? Why does hand-to-hand combat, violent, bloody combat on the White House front lawn, why would that shock us? And it shouldn't. But it should.
Fuck them! Again! Fuck them! Them and you is not friend. Fuck them! Them no need to be in your life. So why you making them cause you nothing but trouble and strife? Fuck them!
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such an extent that you bleach? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate, you should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan!
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.